The movie begins as Eva, a young widow in the 19th century, manages a remote winter fishing outpost in an Arctic bay. She inherits the remote outpost after the sea claims Magnus, her husband, whose belief in the place was strong enough to stake their lives upon it. He once spoke of opportunity lying beneath the frost, if only one could endure the silence, the hunger, the long and endless dark. Now, with him gone, Eva carries the weight of that promise alone, her days measured in dwindling rations and the sigh of the wind against the roof. The sea began to withhold its gifts. The fish no longer come to the nets, and the crew resorts to chewing strips of bait, salted against the last good days. Each of the men bears the gaunt look of those who have known too many hungry mornings. Ragnar, the helmsman, holds the others in line with his silence and stern commands, while Daniel's gaze often strays to the horizon, searching for something beyond survival. Håkon, Jonas, Skuli, and Aron are some of the names of members of the crew. That morning brings no fish, only the terrible sound of a ship's hull splitting on the jagged rocks known as the teeth. The men gather at the shore to witness it, the wooden frame cracking like bones. Daniel suggests they ought to help, and mentions a fire to guide and warm any survivors. He speaks with urgency, reminding the others that they too could meet such a fate if the wind turns another way. But Ragnar dismisses the notion with a steady voice, saying the wreck is not their concern, and that the sea punishes folly without appeal. He reminds them that Magnus was taken by those same rocks, and says none of them would honor his memory if they stepped into the same jaws. Another man questions the silence, asking if truly they will do nothing. One of the others replies that Eva herself spoke of their meager stores the night before, and that to invite 20 more souls into their circle would be to hand each of them a shovel and a patch of grave snow. Ragnar makes it clear that his decision is final, and warns Daniel that if he finds the order bitter, he is welcome to find another boat to command. Daniel does not back down. He turns his words to Eva, reminding the crew that it is her authority that matters in the end. The others look to her, their breath fogging in the still air. Eva feels the eyes upon her and the storm swelling in her chest. She says she agrees with Ragnar, not because her heart aligns with his judgment, but because the weight of responsibility allows nothing else. They cannot feed the living and the drowned alike. Still, she declares that no nets will be cast that day, out of respect for those taken by the sea. Her voice holds, though her eyes brim. At night, she weeps alone, her shoulders shaking as she presses her face into the blanket Magnus once carried to sea. In the dim light of the hearth, she stares into the shadows and whispers apologies that the wind will never carry to shore. And when dawn comes, she cleans her face and steps out with her chin raised and her eyes dry. 3 days pass before the sea gives anything back. A barrel washes up, swollen and barnacled, but full of salt pork. Hope flickers. Eva orders the skiff prepared. If the current brings one thing, perhaps it brings more. She goes with them, lantern in hand, as the boat slips out into the black. The crew rows in silence, the water groaning beneath them like something ancient and angry. Another crate is found, full of lamp oil and precious brandy. They dare to believe in fortune. Then the moaning comes. Survivors still cling to the teeth, their fingers bloodied, their eyes hollow. They begin swimming toward the skiff, calling out with cracked voices. Eva and her men shout warnings. The skiff is small, too small for the weight of so many desperate limbs. Still, the figures surge forward, and panic takes root. Oars turn from tools to weapons. One of the crew strikes a swimmer's hand, trying to keep the boat upright. Amid the chaos, Daniel draws his blade. The sea claims one of the desperate. Then, after his steel and her skin meet, Ragnar does not cry out when he falls. One moment, he is beside them. The next, he is gone, pulled into the deep, without even a final breath to mark his absence. The others shout his name, but he can't answer. The skiff turns back, as they have no choice. The oil and the brandy remain. So does the silence. They return without joy. Ragnar's place sits empty by the fire. The men say little in the hours that follow. One blames Daniel. Another says it is Eva's risk to bear. The tension cracks once, with Aaron raising his voice and Skuli pacing like a caged dog. But no blows are traded. Only grief. Only blame. Eva waits until the next morning before gathering them again. She speaks in the same voice she uses at her wedding, steady and plain. She tells them that Daniel will steer the boat now, and that someone must carry the burden Ragnar dropped into the sea. No one speaks against it. Daniel nods once. Håkon turns away. The others scatter like birds after gunfire. Not long after the wreck, the sea begins to return what it has taken. The tide brings in bodies, pale and bloated, their limbs stiffened by the cold. Some are nameless men in shredded coats, others marked with tattoos or trinkets that hint at lives once lived. The crew, uneasy and quiet, drags them ashore and lays them out under tarps. When one of the corpses is found with live eels writhing in its open stomach, the men recoil in silence. Helga, the cook, crosses herself and turns away, muttering something under her breath about ancient things not meant to be disturbed. It is Helga who first speaks of the old tales, those whispered warnings passed down through the north. She says that sometimes those claimed by the sea do not rest easy, that hatred can linger in flesh as well as spirit. She calls them draugr. She says they return not for vengeance, but because the hunger clinging to their souls is never satisfied. To keep such spirits from rising, she insists their bodies must not be left to rot. They must be boxed in tightly, weighted, sealed, or better still, burned. Eva, wearied and stretched thin, agrees to the coffins. Wooden boxes are built from the last of their spare planks. Eva begins to dream. In the quiet hours, her sleep becomes a passageway into shadow. She sees a figure in the dark, tall and indistinct, its face hidden, its presence heavy as ice. She wakes with her hands clenched. Her skin prickles in a cold that feels too deliberate to be merely weather. Helga warns her again, saying the Draugr brings such dreams, that they enter the mind first, before the bones, that once seen they cannot be unseen. She tells Eva to burn the thing, to send it back into the dark that births it. Soon, not only does Eva have nightmares, but her waking hours are also plagued by Draugr. Eva goes to Daniel with her troubles. She speaks quietly, her voice uncertain, asking if he too has seen things. He listens, gentle, in manner, and tells her it is the conditions they are living under. The wind, the cold, the isolation. These things, he says, cause tricks of the mind. They are tricks of the mind, not signs from beyond. He speaks kindly, not with dismissal, but with care, saying that anyone would feel strange in a place like this, where the light never truly returns. As Eva relaxes, their conversation wanders. Eva asks if Daniel remembers Magnus, not as the man who went into the sea, but as the man who once laughed at small things. Daniel nods and smiles. He recalls that Magnus was never a good shot, that he fumbles with the rifle and still grins like a boy each time he misses. Being a terrible shot never stopped Magnus from shooting, they joke. Eva laughs quietly then. She speaks of the day Magnus proposed. She recalled that he held out a ring in one hand and a compass in the other. After she accepted his proposal, she asked about the compass. Magnus, in response, told her it was to find his way back home in case she turned him down. Without her, he said, he would be lost. They share a warm chuckle over the memory. Daniel offers to load Magnus's old rifle, saying perhaps it would make her feel safer. Eva agrees, but then asks him to show her how to use it instead. He stands beside her, hands on hers, guiding the grip and the trigger. As they practice, something unsaid passes between them. Her forehead brushes his chin. His breath slows. The air between them shifts, but she steps away. Her heart still belongs to Magnus's memory. Soon, good news comes. The sea offers fish again. The nets come up heavy and glistening, the men grinning with the joy of life that almost slipped from them. Laughter echoes across the outpost. For a moment, they are no longer hungry. But the joy fades fast. By the next morning, the stores vanished. The catch is gone. Not spoiled, not eaten, gone. Empty crates, wet floorboards, no sign of theft. As if the sea reached in during the night and took it all back. To make matters worse, Helga is gone too. Tracks are found in the snow, narrow impressions leading from the kitchen to the burial site. The men follow them, their breath steaming, their hands tight around axes and blades. At the row of coffins, they find one empty. The body that was laid there is no longer inside. No drag marks, just an empty box in the hush of snow. Helga's scarf is caught on a nail. The men stand in silence, some mouthing prayers. Madness begins to bloom among them. It starts with whispers, then suspicions, then rage. Håkon accuses Daniel of hiding something. Daniel tries to reason, but the fury will not be soothed. In the dark, Håkon lunges. His hands find Daniel's throat. The struggle is brief and brutal. Aaron intervenes, bringing it to a sudden and irreversible end. No one speaks when it's done. They simply leave Håkon's body. Later that same day, Danielle turns on Jonas. No warning, no words, a glint of steel and a desperate cry. Jonas falls, clutching his side, and Danielle, trembling and wide-eyed, presses the blade to his own. Eva calls his name, begging him to stop, but he has already made peace with his choice. The warmth drains from him as she holds him. Her hands stain, her heart breaks, and she rocks him like a child, whispering his name again and again. Eva does not weep for long. There is no time. She gathers what strength remains and tells the others they will end it. No more waiting for the Draugr to mess with their minds and soul. No more watching helplessly. They will face the thing in the snow and be done with it. Together they make their way to the burial site once more. Fog rolls thick over the ground, cloaking the trees and the stones. Skuli slips on a ledge and vanishes into the mist. He falls, and his voice is swallowed by the cold. At the edge of the clearing, Eva finds Helga's corpse. She sits bent over, her body stiff, her eyes open. Eva kneels beside her in shock and pain. Then comes the ambush. On returning to her cabin, she feels it. Something behind her, something watching. She turns just in time. The figure lunges. She fires the rifle, and it staggers. She drags oil over it, strikes a match, and steps back as flames consume the walls. Eva escapes into the snow, breathing hard, soot on her face, the fire crackling from a safe distance. She thinks it is done, thinks she has won. But then we see the objective truth of what lies in the ruins. A man, not a monster. His clothes were torn, his body trembling. He spoke in a tongue she did not understand. his hand outstretched. He offers her a gold watch, his eyes full of pleading. She could not understand. She saw only the dark figure from her dreams. She pulls the trigger. She strikes the match. She left him burning. As Ava closes her eyes at a safe distance from the fire, it is unclear if she realizes what she has done or if she's pondering what the cold has taken from her, things that she can never recover. The end.